Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this video, we are going to talk about the definition and the calculation of risk. In our previous video, we have discussed about the concept of returns, and in this video, we will discuss about the risk concept. So, risk is the variability around the returns. So, this is the measure of uncertainty that is surrounding the returns. The more the variable our return is, the more the risk is associated with that investment. So, this is the variability, this is the uncertainty about the returns. So, there are different tools we use in finance to measure the risk. The one is the scenario analysis, the other one is the range, and the most important is the standard deviation. So, scenario analysis is about the assessing of risk, in which we look at about the alternative outcomes, or the outcome means the scenarios, to have a sense of variability. For example, we can have an assessment of what are the most worst results, what can be most expected result, what can be most best result, or the most optimistic results. So the more the scenarios we have, the more accurate results we can have. Whereas the range is the difference between the best one and the worst one. So in this example, you can see in this given table, we have three scenarios: pessimistic, most likely, and the optimistic. The most worst one, the most expected one, the most best one. So there are three scenarios that are giving us the variability of our returns. And when we look at a specific calculation of range, the difference between the best one and the worst one is the range. Here in asset A it is 4%, whereas in asset B is 23 minus 7, 16%. The more the range, the more the difference between the best and the worst one, the more risky the asset would be. So range tell us about the difference between the most worst one and the best one. The third most important tool that we use in case of risk assessment is the calculation of standard deviation. So for this, we will use the same data given in the Excel sheet. So this is the same one in which we have calculated the expected returns. This is the different scenarios, and these are the probabilities associated with these scenarios, and these are the returns associated with each probabilities. And by multiplying this probability and the individual returns, we get these weighted values, and by having the sum of these weighted values, we have the expected returns. So this is the expected returns values, and now we have to calculate the range and the standard deviation. So for the range, our best return is 60%. So 60% minus the worst one is minus 50%. So the range is I have this value here. So our range is 10%. So this is the answer for the range. The next one is to calculate the standard deviation. So to calculate the standard deviation, our first step would be to calculate the deviation from the individual return, this column, and the expected return, this value. right? So Ri minus 50% minus 11%, minus 5% minus 11%, 16% minus 11%, 25% minus 11, 16% minus 11. So we will have these values in this column: minus 50% minus 11%. The next value would be minus 5% minus 11%. So it should be in percentages. So I minus 5%, 16%, 25%, 60%. So next would be 16% minus 11%. Then it would be 25% minus 11%. Then would be 60% minus 11%. Minus 5% minus 11%. Okay, so these are the deviations. We can also have them in number or the decimal values. And then in the next step, we will have the square of these deviations. We'll have the square of these deviations. So just have this value raised to power 2 minus 16% raised to power 2, 5% raised to power 2, minus 14% raised to power 2 raised to power 2. So these are the square of the deviations. The next step would be to multiply the square of deviation with the probability values that are given in this column, and just do it with all the numbers in the column. And in the end, just have the sum of these weighted values of the deviations. So our this is called variance. Having the sum of these weighted values of the deviation squares, this is called as variance. And by taking the square deviation of this variance, we will get the value of standard deviation. So the standard deviation is 26%. So what does this 26% mean, or 27% mean? So it means that our expected return, that is 11%, can be 27% more or less than the our actual return can be 11%. Our expected return can be 24% more, or this expected value of 11%, 27% less. So actual return can be 27% more of the expected return, or it can be less of the 25%. So the variability of our actual return can be around this expected return by a number of 27%. So this is what does the standard deviation mean. So standard deviation, higher the value of standard deviation, the more riskier would be our investments. So this is how we will calculate the standard deviation for a single asset. So in the next video, we will talk about the portfolios and the portfolios returns and calculations.